Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm in Fuego here.
Luis Hernandez.
And welcome to our panel for Phoenix Fan Fusion 2019. This is the nerve-wracking remakes panel. And basically what we're going to be doing, you guys, is talking all about some remake action that we got going on, which is quite a bit. So we'll talk about the stuff that's going on in 2019, briefly touch on some classics and some recent ones that are really worth your time. And then part of this, we're going to we picked 3 movies each that we would like to see remade, and how would we do it. And some of those might be controversial choices, so we'll see what happens. So let's get her going, Fuego.
Let's get it rocking. So first off, we got the 2019 remakes. So it was actually more than you might have initially actually realized. So yeah, we have Swamp Thing, which is going to be coming to the DC All Access. There's some trailers floating around for that. We also have, it's kind of a soft reboot sort of thing with the new Critters film that is going to have none other than Dee Wallace returning.
Let's go through one at a time, just real quick, yeah. So Swamp Thing is something that it's a TV series that's dropping on the DC app on May 31st, and there's some of these that are like kind of riding the line of whether you want to call it a remake or not, because there were technically 2 Swamp Thing movies made. Was just one done by Wes Craven, or were both?
Wes Craven did the first one, okay. And then Return of Swamp Thing was the one I'm more familiar with.
And then there was the USA TV show.
There was a USA TV show.
So, yeah, this is not the first time Swamp Thing's been made into a television show. USA did it first, and it was pretty freaking dope, so.
Well, the nice thing about it is that so far, Lou can attest to this, I jumped on the DC Universe app a little late, and I'm watching Doom Patrol right now, and it's fantastic. So I hope that they'll keep that level of production up for the Swamp Thing show, although there's a bit of controversy already. If you guys didn't know, the person playing Swamp Thing is Derek Mears, who was the Jason in the Friday the 13th remake, amongst other, creature-ish roles and things like that. But the series was supposed to be 13 episodes, and then, or was it 10?
No, it was 13.
It was 13,
and then they cut it to 10.
Yeah, the studio basically,
they
were about to go in to shoot episode 10, and they're like, okay, so you got to wrap it up in this episode instead of having 4 more. And so they had to do some changes, and so now
it's a budget thing, right?
Yeah, it was a budgetary issue, but nonetheless, they had planned on 13, and then in the 11th hour, had it shrank down. So we'll see. Hopefully, it'll be good. Do you have an interest in it, Fuego?
I have a definite interest, especially from the fact that it looks like full-on horror and high production value. James Wan's production company is behind it, which is really exciting. Oh boy, what is it? Atomic something or Atomic Monster? And anyway, it doesn't
matter. In your
head.
I don't
James
know what you're
Wan's
trying
production
to
company. Let's just keep it at that. And so DC All Access, they need properties like this, along with Titans and Doom Patrol, to really just garner the interest and keep people wanting to spend those few doll hairs a month, and because there's also the comic catalog, right?
Yeah,
that's a part of it.
Listen, I jumped right onto this pony when it came out. I just was like, DC Access everything. It's worth it, man. The original content right now is like some of the best television I'm seeing. So definitely watch it. Check it out.
And then Critters Attack you mentioned next, right?
Yeah, man. And Critters Attack is the return of none other than Dee Wallace, presumably reprising her role from the original film. As
presumably,
the trailer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we were not fans of the Shudder series, but this looks like it's higher budget and maybe a little more faithful to the series, the original films at least. So, yeah.
Yeah, the eyes aren't, little glowing Christmas lights like they were in the Shudder series. So hopefully that'll just one little detail that they're getting right compared to the Shudder series. But yeah, again, that one is stretching the limits of being called a remake, because it's what I like to call a rebequel, where it's a kind of a reboot and sequel at the same time, where they usually just bring 1 or 2 characters back in order to introduce you to a bunch of new ones. So
as long as they don't have crate and human sex, I'm totally okay, because that was too much in the Shudder show for me. It's pretty bad.
Next.
Yeah, so next up is a film that was wrought with a lot of controversy. I host a show called Hail to Stephen King on the horror show, and there is the Pet Sematary remake was very divisive. Mostly because of the fact that they, decided to kill a different child, and it was much darker in tone, maybe more faithful in some ways to the original book in that aspect. But I grew over time to appreciate what they did, with a couple additional viewings and stuff. But yeah, Pet Sematary. This is definitely a remake that people were very opinionated about. And Lou, since I know you weren't on the panel the other day when we talked about this particular remake, did you see the Pet Sematary remake?
I did, and I didn't like it. Sorry. Sorry, didn't like it. Yeah, no, I didn't like it.
It's fine. That's great.
Simple,
Not
man.
much to elaborate on beyond that.
I was actually a fan of it. I wasn't as attached to the original as a lot of people seemed to be, so I actually enjoyed it pretty well. I liked the ending too, so I was happy walking out of that one.
Yeah, once again, mixed feelings, but okay. Well, so it's not to beat this like a red-headed dead horse. So next up, we have another Doom movie that is finally coming. Now, the original one had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Carl Urban, like some actual star power. This one does not.
No.
And this one, kind of from the trailer we saw, looks like it's going to be of the previously direct-to-video. Now, I guess that's VOD in that particular market. Yeah, the trailer did not impress me.
No,
really.
Doom Annihilation looks like a hot garbage fire. It's
Wait, it's called Doom Annihilation?
Yeah.
Like Mortal Kombat?
just like Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Yeah.
It's obviously going to share
Hollywood
some
will
of that
never
tissue.
learn.
No, like let's use Annihilation. Every time we've used that in titles in the past, it's done great.
Worked out wonderfully, unless the movie Annihilation. Which
Yeah,
is
honestly,
true.
you guys, if you watch the trailer for this, it looks like it was made before the first Doom. Like it looks that terrible. It's just a mess.
And yet the property is back in vogue with the fact that, the previous game, which was like a remake.
2016,
at that
they did
point,
remake, and there's a sequel to that coming out this year, supposedly.
And so, hey, jump on the garbage fire, I suppose.
Play the games,
Yeah.
forget the movie.
So as we circle around the Wheel of Ka, we're going to get to It Chapter 2, which probably the most anticipated horror film of the year for pretty much everybody, and we know it's going to crush at the box office. The original film set box office records. It surpassed, at least as far as non-reappropriated dollars, for the highest grossing film of all time.
It's the highest grossing horror movie of all time,
It
for
is,
sure.
yeah. If they were to like change for inflation and stuff, they say The Exorcist would still be beyond it. But nonetheless, it's like, hey, people are,
There was
money
nothing
is
else to
worth
do back then.
money is worth less, and so It Chapter 2. I mean, bringing the adults into play, actually doing the kids and the adults, and the whole jumping back and forth like in the source material. I'm cautiously optimistic, because of the fact that Cary Fukunaga has no role in this. He wrote the predominance of the original script for the 2017 film. Gary Dauberman came in and did a polish on it, and he's the guy who's done great movies like The Nun. So
really? The Nun?
So he's
Dude, great
the one-
movie?
He was being
That's not
sarcastic.
new, it's called
Oh, okay, I was
sarcasm.
gonna
That's popular
say.
with kids these days. But yeah, I'm just apprehensive. I know it's going to be, with Andy Muschietti returning to direct, it's going to be visually and stylistically majestic and awesome. The cast is terrific, but the scripting, especially with some of the stuff with the adults, that if you've read the book, you know just how tough it's going to be to convert some of that to screen. So I don't know. I'm still hopeful it's going to be badass, but it was one of your favorite films of the year, right?
Yeah, I loved the first one,
2017.
so I'm really excited about this one. Hopefully it's... Well, I imagine they'd have to screw up a lot to make it as bad as the second part of the TV movie, so...
I
come
like
on,
it.
man.
Oh, yeah, it's nostalgia. You don't like it because it's good.
Don't tell me how to feel.
So yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, I'm still reading the book. And
2 years later.
yeah, 2 years later, I'm still reading the book. But I swear I'm going to finish it before this movie comes out.
Hey, one word a day. Pace
Yep.
yourself.
Dude, seriously, 10 pages every week, I'm good.
You should be done somewhere around 2024.
Yeah.
To be fair,
But-
it's over 1,000 pages. It's like a
But I mean,
paperweight,
like,
man.
Bill Hader's in it, and recently I've been on a Bill Hader kick, so.
I need to check
Yeah.
out Barry.
Well,
Yeah.
he has the show on HBO
Barry,
where
yeah.
he's the
Barry,
yeah.
which I
Barry.
haven't checked out, but I've
It's
heard
Barry.
good things. So
But yeah, no, I'm excited for It Chapter Dos.
there you go. You're doing some Fuego speak right there.
I
like
know,
it.
right?
I
I'm
like it.
learning my Spanish.
The
So-
next one is very appropriately timed.
Truly, because this actually, now that I think about it, this is probably more anticipated for you than It Chapter 2, right?
Yes, and I mean, It Chapter 1 impressed me so much, but Chucky is one of my all-time favorite slashers. He's number 2 behind Freddy for me. So, yeah, the new Child's Play I'm really excited about. A lot of people think that the new Chucky looks like, Matt Damon from Team America. I personally don't see that. I enjoy.
Now that you say it, I'm like, oh shit.
I thought the same thing when somebody told me, man. I was like,
Yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to unsee that when I watch the movie, but I'm on board. I liked this, and here's something, because after we finish this screen, we're going to talk briefly about why remakes, why is Hollywood so obsessed with this, and this Child's Play remake is actually, sight unseen, of course, but the stuff going on behind the remake, like the fact that this remake is the most appropriate example of what a remake should be, because the original came out in the 80s, and now it's obviously we're almost to the 2020s, and technology has come very far, so it makes sense to update the story where it's not just a doll. Now it's a doll that's got technology inside. You know, he's a little mini Siri. You know, he can connect to your smart devices in your house. And that, to me, is what a good remake should be. It's an evolution of the story. It's bringing it up to date to nowadays. How many kids do you know that just play with a doll that size now when all these video games and stuff like that? So they had to update it to make it make sense. So this, again, sight unseen, I have high hopes. It might end up being garbage, but the idea behind it is at least something that I'm happy that Hollywood is trying to think a little bit differently when it comes to their remakes. So.
No, yeah, no, I'm not a big Child's Play fan.
Get out.
But I'm sorry, I just wasn't. But no, I saw the second trailer and I was like, man, this looks good. But you know, then again, I felt the same way when I saw the second trailer for RoboCop.
The new one.
Yeah,
Michael Keaton
but
and
yeah,
Sammy
but maybe
Chan.
this will learn from RoboCop's mistakes. You know, but I do agree. I like the idea of like updating it like that. Like, you know, a serial killer trying to escape from the cops by doing
Voodoo.
a spell. I mean, like that sounds dope as fuck, but realistically, I don't think it's possible.
I don't think it was back then either,
Yeah,
but you know.
it was the '80s. I don't know, man.
Well, I mean, the biggest sin that the RoboCop remake made, in my estimation, was they tried to do the Terminator route. They PG-13 did, and thankfully, this new Child's Play,
Yeah, it looks
R-rated,
vicious, man.
It's going to maintain, hopefully, like the visceral, wacky gore that we got in some of the later entries. I mean,
I think it might be. I think it might just like be better than the originals. I'm gonna throw that out there. If I was a gambling man, which I'm not, I would.
Yeah.
So
I see why you're not.
yeah.
See, I was just okay with it, aside from the fact that, I mean, Aubrey Plaza, whew. Anyway.
Calm down.
But nonetheless, once they announced Mark Hamill to be doing the voice, that's where I was just like, okay, the voice of the Joker is going to be the new Chucky. That's where I'm finally taking notice, and I think that this does have the capacity to be something special. And, you know, just like Cecil was saying, to echo those sentiments, it's like, why would you remake the same movie? Like Gus Van Sant, why the hell would you remake Psycho scene for scene when the original is so terrific there's no point to it?
Because he's
Unless
an
you're gonna
artist,
take
that's
it-
why.
Yeah, do something different with it, you know? I mean, for my King speech, it's like another turn of the wheel, a different level of the tower, something different, you know, that has some of the same genetic code, but, you know, veers off into different unforeseen territory, you know? I mean, do something original and different. So I'm hoping this Child's Play definitely does that.
I think it will. I have high hopes, which is
Yeah.
weird because I'm not a Child's Play fan.
Yeah.
So
Next up.
Well, speaking of trying to do something different and failing miserably,
Yes.
Hellboy.
Have any of you guys seen the new Hellboy?
no.
Okay, all right.
Well,
Apparently, everyone in here is smart with their money, because
Like well,
Smarter
we
than
saw
us.
it. I
yeah,
didn't see it.
it was rough. And I've been a fan of Hellboy for a long time. I have all the comics, well, most of the trades, and I like the originals. Obviously, Guillermo del Toro is something that's tough to replace, but the problem is, I actually liked the aesthetic of the new Hellboy, the way he looked, but his acting was not Hellboy, and everything else was not really Hellboy either. So I don't know what they were thinking. They basically made it Resident Evil, and I say that because Mia Jovovich is in it, but it's just as like nonsensically over the top stupid action. There's about 10 minutes of really cool gore when like demons rise from hell and start just wreaking havoc. Like that's cool, but we get like 7 minutes of it and then we're back to the trash again. So yeah, Hellboy was one of those examples of a remake just going off the rails.
Yeah, it was like when I walked out of it, I was like, did I just watch like Van Helsing with, Hugh Jackman? And because that's totally the vibe that I got from this movie, albeit in that third act for those 10 or 15 minutes or so. It gets gory and crazy, and it is a movie that just doesn't give a crap, and it's very much of that 90s ilk of horror where it
Early
is violent
2000s even, yeah.
I mean, Jovovich gets her head cut off at the very beginning of the movie, and it's very bloody, and there's giants eating people, but the acting and the story are very weak, despite the fact that I thought Harbour was inspired casting, David Harbour from Stranger Things and various other properties and whatnot. And I mean, you've got Swearinger in there. Anything Ian McShane, he elevates anything that he is in. And yet it was a weird weird relationship that I didn't necessarily buy as much between the two of them. It didn't feel as genuine. The connection wasn't necessarily there. So, I mean, even with the Dog Soldiers director being associated with it, it just didn't really hit the way everybody was hoping. So yeah.
So the next one is again one of those that may or may not be considered a remake. There was, Godzilla has been around for a long time. This is the first King of Monsters version in the new timeline, but there was obviously the King of Monsters back in the rubber suit days, and so if you want to call it a remake, you certainly can. We won't touch on it for terribly long, but I know that at least Fuego and I are excited. How about you?
No, I'm really excited.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of the director.
Mike Doherty, man.
Yeah, man.
Trick or Treat.
He's a very visual director, and I think he has a very good tone. And I'm really curious to see what he does with like a big blockbuster film. As much as the first Godzilla movie sucked in story, visually it was great. It was beautiful, but and the cast in this one looks really good too. So yeah, I'll see it. I don't think I consider it a remake. It's just, it's not
like I said,
anything. It's just
kind of
a sequel
skirting that
of the
line.
same
So.
story of a monster killing a city.
Next Friday. So let's move on from there. The next couple are TV series, right?
Yeah, we got Sabrina next, and this is one I can't shed any light on since I have not watched.
I'll take
this.
it.
I mean, hey, Melissa Joan Hart's the Sabrina that I know, unfortunately. So, talking black cats and whatnot. I know that the Netflix series has taken a drastically different approach based on the comic series, right?
Yeah, it's
Scary Adventures of
it's
Sabrina.
definitely a much darker show. It's kind of supernatural esque, and it's darker. There's death, there's sacrifices, there's betrayal, there's creatures. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely not the sitcom that the old Sabrina was. So if you guys haven't given it a try based on thinking that it's similar to the old stuff, it's not. It's actually very worth your time. You can watch the first episode and know whether it's going to be for you or not, because it's pretty consistent throughout. But I will say it's very entertaining as far as youthful supernatural type dramas go, because those are kind of a dime a dozen now. But Sabrina's one of the, especially in the second season, it gets even darker. So it's cool. They're on a good trajectory as far as a horror fan's opinion goes. And the other two ladies on the channel, Marcia and Susie, who couldn't be here today, they both watch it. They both love it as well. So you're getting the opinion of a dude, but the chicks like it too. So
I know, Lou, you've watched it too, right?
No, I'm gonna agree with Cecil. Like, you watch the first episode and you get an idea of like, is this for me, or if it's not. And I watched the first episode and it wasn't for me. I mean, visually and it's dark, but story-wise, it's a little too on the nose, like socially for me. It's just, I don't know. It feels like it's really definitely in a fantasy world, politically.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
I can't do it. But maybe maybe I'll get older and realize like, holy shit, this is genius. Rewatch it.
Never know, man. No, so next up we have the Jordan Peele curated remake of the Twilight Zone. A reboot is really more so.
He remakes certain episodes.
Yeah.
So
one in particular that's been done, the third time now when we have Adam Scott as
Terror at 20,000 feet, I think.
Yeah. So we had Lithgow, we had William Shatner, and that's right, none other than Kirk himself. And so I've heard mixed feelings from you about this. You were talking specifically.
No, not
about
from me. I've enjoyed it. There's one episode that was bad, but I never watched the original Twilight Zone.
And I love the original Twilight Zone.
Yeah, so I've heard from people that watch the original, they are not fans of the remake, which, surprise, surprise, how does that happen? So I don't have those ties, again, just like one of the earlier ones we talked about. I don't have those nostalgic issues that I need to work through in order to enjoy this new thing. So I've been enjoying it. I especially liked the comedian one with Kumail Nanjiani, who is everywhere now. But it's enjoyable. It's Black Mirror, basically, but not technology focused. And again, there's one episode that's bad that's called Not All or something like that. It's essentially every dude starts going crazy and becoming violent and all this stuff that gets affected by something, and it's so uber politicized. It's crazy. I don't know. I'm tired of all the politics and stuff at this point, to be honest with you. Everyone's crowbarring it in. It's so tough.
I just want them to remake To Serve Man from the original series. That's really all.
But they're going to have to change the ending to that.
How so?
Well, I mean, To Serve Man, like, we all know the twist to that one.
Yeah,
Well,
they
if
can't
If you're
do
going to
that.
remake it or retell it, you have to, like, really
I don't
a twist
necessarily
on
think
top
so.
of
Haven't they
It would be
done
called To Serve Woman this time. because let's be PC about this.
Yeah, because it is all about the twist. But I mean, you know, Terror at whatever. 20,
Terror at 20,000 feet. Yeah,
it's the same story each time there. So.
Well, no, this one didn't even have a creature in it.
Really?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like this, there was no creature on the side of the plane, but it was still Terror. It was actually really interesting. If you guys are curious, the Terror at 20,000 feet was the creature on the wing that the Simpsons spoof. There's a gremlin on the side of the bus. You know that.
Treehouse.
So this one, he's actually listening to a podcast that is, as the plane takes off, the podcast basically starts talking about, he's like, and now we're going to tell you the fateful story of Flight 273, where, you know, it went down and nobody knows why, and he's on Flight 273. So as he's listening to the podcast, he hears all these different, you know, things while he's trying to unravel why the plane goes down and stop it ahead of time. And
that sounds pretty dope.
It was pretty cool. Honestly,
Yeah,
I liked it. That's what I'm saying.
idea.
I'm a big creature fan, so I would have liked that too. But being, you know, part of a group that does podcasts, that was it was definitely near to me. So
Getting a little close to home, huh?
yeah, if you're not precious about the original Twilight Zone, I'd say give it a try. Briefly, we'll just stop right here. I want to give our opinions, and then I want to get a couple of opinions from the audience just real briefly. Fuego, let's start with you. Why do you think that Hollywood is doing so many remakes versus sticking with, you know, new properties and stuff like that? We'll get our opinions, and then we'll go to the audience. So
It's obviously recognizability. You know, I mean, IPs that are already in the public consciousness, if you've seen it in any form before, whether it was television, whether it was a film, whether it was a comic book, whatever, people are drawn to the familiar, you know, and it just happens naturally and inherently. And that's why we have, you know, so many Marvel sequels. That's why we have franchising of everything. We don't just, even when you do have an original idea, a lot of the time it's not something as often that's self-contained. It's something that's going to be expanded upon, and they have ideas for 2, 3, 4. I mean, God, the Power Rangers, when they were trying to reboot that like a year or so ago, they're like, oh, we have 7 films planned. And you're like, really, guys? Like, don't put the cart before the horse, for God's sake. And so, yeah, I think that, you know, so many of the casual audience goers, and, you know, at your end, especially when you're spending $12, $15 to go see a movie a lot of the time, you want to go to see something that you're hopeful is going to be good because you've seen it be good before. And I think that's why we see the original ideas from the A24s and from some of these other, you know, IFC Midnight is another one that puts out a lot of really good original stuff as far as horror goes. But more so than anything else, if you're seeing something big budget, it's from Blumhouse, or it's tied into the Conjuring universe in some way. I mean, even La Llorona, we're just like, oh, they mentioned Annabelle. It's connected to the Conjuring movies, okay. So, I mean, yeah, the whole recognizability and people just having that comfort zone where if they've seen something in that vein that they've liked before, that's why they go back. You know, it's like the safe zone.
does it bother you, all the remakes, or are you okay with them?
If it's properties I like, I'm okay with it. You know, I mean,
If I like it, it's cool.
yeah, or if it's like
You don't.
source material that I like. I'm super stoked that James Wan is remaking the Tommyknockers, for instance. I'm a little more hesitant about the remake of Salem's Lot, to go into 2 Stephen King properties that James Wan is behind the remaking of. I think the original Salem's Lot is terrific, but it's been about 40 years now since the Tobe Hooper, so, you know, I don't talk about the Rob Lowe miniseries on TNT, but Tommyknockers was not given proper justice with Jimmy Smits back in the day on ABC, so I'm cool with, you know, that sort of just retake on things when I don't think they were done too well, but I do feel like there is a hesitance to take risk with original ideas, and I don't think that unless you're making something really low budget for like a Blumhouse or an A24, that the whole mid-budget, you know, horror is a much bigger risk. You're not going to make an original horror movie for 15 to 20 million anymore. It's just not going to happen. Has to be in the 5 to 10 range, and yeah, I mean, that's about the long and the short of it. So,
Yeah, okay.
Lou, your thoughts?
My thoughts, I think it's just, one, it's Hollywood wanting to bank off of something that's familiar. And right now, I mean, it's what year is this, 2019?
yeah, believe it or not.
That was a joke, by the way.
It landed real well.
Thank you, I know, I heard all the giggles. No, but it's also like, I mean, look at where we're at right now. Like, you know, we're at a place where it's selling mythology, stories that we are so familiar with, things that will never go out of style. The only difference right now is like we're getting it through video games and movies and all that, like more visual, but it's like the same story over and over. And I don't think that, I mean, as long as people, you know, we buy that, I mean, that's a sure bet. You know, like, hey, let's remake this. That was a huge cult classic. Now we have the technology to make it way, you know, more epic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, people are like, hey, like, I love that growing up, nostalgia. Now I live in a time where I can see what we can actually do. And a lot of these, you know, movies, the ones you've been mentioning, Fuego, like the Stephen King stuff, you gotta understand, those are also things based off that. I don't really consider the new movies remakes of the original movies. I consider them a new adaptation of the original source, which is like, you know, the book. So, you know, with the book, it's gonna be completely different. So, but yeah, it's like, again, mythology, I think we're always gonna wanna listen to and see those stories. And if it looks good, you got a great cast and good music, then yeah, people are going to go see it. People are going to spend money on it.
So you're not personally inherently against them? Like
no, man. Some of my favorite movies are remakes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
yeah, a lot of people forget that. The Thing from the Carpenter's The Thing, the Blob from the 80s, the Fly, those are all remakes.
Yeah. And like the ones we know, we're like, oh, you know, Jeff Goldblum and you know, Kurt Russell and the Blob.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Chuck Russell, Frank Darabont, yo, come on.
So my opinion is, why does Hollywood keep sticking with remakes? I mean, the quickest way to answer what Fuego was saying is true. They make the most money, so the reason for Hollywood keeps doing it is because of us. It's because of the audience. They keep showing up for them. I mean, if everyone would stop going to them, they would stop doing remakes. So the people that get upset about Hollywood not putting money towards original ideas, blame the audience, because it's the audience's, you know, responsibility to tell the filmmakers what they don't want to see. But
again, I love like again, like we're gonna talk about like remakes we love. There are some remakes I think are just bomb as hell. Mm-hmm. Like I'm glad they remade them. Like, well, I'm not glad. I'm just like, all right.
Well, that's and what the other thing I like to make you know, tell people or maybe bring up that they hadn't thought about is when we were you know, how often is an original Hollywood idea that good anymore? I mean, even the originals aren't really super original. They're all you know, a mishmash of things that we've seen before. So the people that are like, why can't they put money towards new stuff? Well, you know, most of the new stuff they do, no one goes to see because it's not very good. My opinion on, you know, should they be doing this or not? I know why they're doing it. Should they be doing it? My opinion is I don't mind. Like, there's so many people that are like, oh my God, they're ruining my childhood with these remakes. How many people have heard they're ruining my childhood? It's the dumbest statement in my opinion, because no, they're not. They're not reaching into your past and changing a goddamn thing.
My uncle ruined my childhood.
They're not, Jesus.
They're not taking
they're not
VHS off
no,
your
they're
shelf,
not
man.
They're not filming the new movies on the old negatives. So all of that stuff is still there, and the way I look at it is I would rather have a chance at a new Chucky movie, a new Jason movie, a new Michael Myers movie that I would like to rewatch over and over again, rather than them not trying or just, you know, just because, oh, they're going to screw up the old movies if they do a new one. No. I mean, the old ones are still there, and you might now have another one that you can watch in rotation if it's any good. They're not always good, but some of them, you know, Halloween 2018 is going to go in a lot of people's Halloween rotations. And that's that's the thing that, you know, so a lot of people don't think about when it comes to remakes. So now, going to your guys's, we'll get some opinions from the audience real quick. Does anyone have any different thoughts than what we mentioned on why it happens, or any thoughts on whether they should or shouldn't do it? Yes, back in the back.
I think a lot of it too is everybody always wants to put their own spin on it. It's almost a vanity thing. Like, I want to make the best Dracula movie. You know, it's been done a million times before. They're like, why didn't you do that?
You're right. I could see that, but you have to convince an entire studio to agree with you in order to get that done. But I do agree. I'll bet there are some filmmakers, some vanity projects out there. I'll bet you're not wrong on that for sure.
You still have to approach it with that level of confidence, though. You have to walk in with that swagger and that certainty that you can do something as good, if not better, or at least like left of center and different than what's been done previously. You know, it has to be a distinctive and different take. You know, so.
Yes.
I have two theories. This summer alone has been one of the biggest box office openings of all time. Think about Avengers Endgame. Like, people are going to the movies like crazy. And then, so another one would have to be like technological advances throughout the time, because back in the 80s, horror was also a very big genre around that time. And as 90s to actually make these movies better? How could I actually make a better storyline for what I thought originally thought?
Anyone else? Yes.
Well, I think some of it too is just, the idea that, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I think, people look at the old properties and they're like, some of the ideas in this are still as relevant today. Like, how can we recontextualize this for a modern audience? I think Twilight Zone is a great example of that.
Agreed. All right, so
Segue.
if everyone else is good, we can move on. Now, we're going to go through kind of quick. We only have about a half hour left, and I want to give us some time for our 3 remakes we're going to pick. So the next couple we'll
we're
get through a little
jumping
bit
straight to
quick.
that one.
Speed round here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Quality classic remakes. So these are ones that we think in the last like 20-ish years or so were on point and did a tremendous job. And I know the first one wasn't my choice. I haven't seen any of the prom nights, but whose decision was that?
Well, we're not going to go through all of them, so
Okay.
we'll just list them off so they
Okay,
see
so-
some. If you guys haven't seen any of if there are some of these you have not seen, I think they're at least worth checking out. Because they're of the non-terrible variety. They're not, they're nothing you're going to write home about, but as far as remakes go, they're not terrible. Did someone actually put Psycho on there? Because that's a mistake if so.
No, this was put together by Marsha Parker, who's
Okay.
not here. So,
right.
we got the Prom Night remake. We have the Texas Chainsaw remake, which honestly, for me, that original film, nothing can really change its relevance in the fact that it still feels so real with like the, broadcasters talking and stuff like that. It feels almost like a documentary, borderline. It's gritty, it's gross, but I actually like the remake with Jessica Biel. And, just the meat hook scene alone just made me cringe and stuff. And it's stylistic. It's Michael Bay produced, so what have you. But
I was not a fan.
You weren't a fan.
No.
No.
I was excited for it because I am a huge fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, like the first 4. The only thing about it I thought was cool is like they used the original cinematographer. Can't remember his name, but from the original, he, did this one. But other than that, I didn't like it. Like, I felt like it lacked the originals. It's just like it's crazy. It's bonkers. It's Looney Tunes. There's no logic. It is just that, and it's like, and not only that, but it's also a story about like, this is a family disenfranchised butchers, they're being put out of business. Now they get butcher like innocents.
Originally titled Head Cheese.
Yeah, exactly. So like, no, it's just a bonkers like Looney Tunes film, and I think this one tried too hard to like really, it's funny because it did something that I'm a big fan about remakes, but did it in the wrong way. So I'm just not a fan.
No, and the one that I can't shut up about is The Blob. The Blob is my favorite remake, and it's probably my favorite horror movie. I mean, Aliens, second Aliens film is more like a science fiction action movie because I would probably put that above this. But as far as the unholy trinity of 80s remakes, The Blob, the practical is disgusting. The fact that, no holds barred, they'll kill kids in it. Women, they don't give a crap. And also the fact that at the beginning of the movie, you have the person you think is going to be the hero die. And it's one of the most gruesome, like, body melt scenes that I think has ever been put to screen. I think Kevin Dillon is great. We have a great, female hero, and she does a terrific job. And, I absolutely adore The Blob. Once again, Chuck Russell, Frank Darabont, great work from them.
So then, we also have 13 Ghosts, which was a 2000s one that was a remake that has a couple of quality kills.
That was from the Dark, what was the name of the company? They also did the Haunting.
Dark Castle.
Dark Castle, there it is. Yeah. They did a lot of stuff around that time.
And then The Fly, obviously, quality.
Goes
Jeff
I thought you said
Goldblum.
the flan.
Yeah, the flan.
It's like
It's a
Spanish version of
evil
the
Mexican dessert.
Yes, it's a deadly flan that you will puke your guts
Don't
out.
get caught in the flan.
Don't miss that flan.
The Fly is quality, some outstanding creature effects. Jeff Goldblum in his heyday, and
Yet some people argued The Fly 2, the one with Eric Stoltz.
I actually
and with
like The Fly 2
dog,
a
and
lot. The
just
Fly
like,
2 made me cry at the end, so I don't know why. It's been a while since I've seen it, but
Where they have to put the dog down is so messed up, man. Alrighty.
and
Anyway,
then next up we have
the House on Haunted
The
Hill.
House on Haunted Hill, which has actually been remade again into The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix as a series. So it's obviously they took some liberties with the story on the Netflix series, but yeah, this was a remake of the Vincent Price Haunting of Hill House from back in the day. And again, early 2000s or late 90s, I think that one might have been. And that's one that I really liked. It had, if I recall correctly, Sonya from the good Mortal Kombat movie.
Tay
as
Diggs.
well as Tay Diggs, yep, and Jeffrey Rush, I think, wasn't he the big?
Yeah, he was
The
Price.
dude running.
He was
Yeah, he
Vincent
was Price. Yeah. So I think that's a quality one, and it's some of the earlier, stuff that's been played out at this point, where like, there's a nurse or something that just does the, the quick movement stuff. That was really huge in the Silent Hill era of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And then we have Amityville, where you've got those Deadpool abs going on, little Ryan Reynolds chopping the wood and all that jazz. But
I love that's your connection to that movie.
It's all I
You're
remember.
like, it's not like,
Girl
this is about the
swooning
family
over
moves
it.
into the haunted house about
And
Ryan
men,
Reynolds'
too.
abs.
Yeah.
It was abtastic.
I wasn't too impressed by it. I don't know. Amityville has never really
The
done it.
No,
Amityville
I didn't like it as much because it didn't do the really scary stuff to me. I think the pig in the window is one of the scariest images of the original movie for sure, and no one's really tried to do it again because I guess they don't find pigs scary anymore. I don't know.
Unless they're cops. Anyone? No?
Oh,
Okay.
jeez, boy.
Sorry. I'm like Motel Hell, maybe? I don't know.
Next.
I already reamed the Psycho
Yeah,
remake
we can move
earlier.
past that
was
one.
when they
Yeah.
were trying to turn
Skip
Vince
that one.
Vaughn
That one
into a
sucks,
serial killer.
Marcia might have put that on because she likes Vince Vaughn. So.
Well, this was about the time they were trying to typecast him when he did Clay Pigeons and when he did Psycho and stuff, and they were like, Vince Vaughn's funny. It's nice to see him branching out and whatnot.
I would love to
Cell
see the
Block
blooper reel
99,
from
man.
Psycho.
Watch that. The Grudge, I love Sarah Michelle Gellar ever since the Buffy days and whatnot, Cruel Intentions, but I don't know. I was not.
That was a quality remake. I mean, everyone went to see it, so it did. I mean, it spawned 2 sequels, and it was a remake of
It's
Ju-On.
being remade right now too.
Yeah,
As
it's being
just
it was supposed to come out this
Lachey
year, but we don't know what's going on with it. We haven't heard any specific details. But yeah, they are remaking The Grudge again.
Yeah.
They're doing an American remake of the American remake.
Nice.
Okay, talk about double dipping. All right.
And I don't know.
Next is the Thing, and most people no, the Ring is
Yeah,
not
because
on
The
here.
Ring was
mention
obviously
it now.
the same as The Grudge. That was a remake of Ringu, and
I contend Gore's remake is actually better than the original.
yeah,
I really do. It's stylistically fantastic. Naomi Watts is tremendous in her performance there. And it's funny
And then it
because
went
for
downhill again.
the American version of The Ring 2, they brought the director of Ringu over to make it, and it just didn't work so well,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Kind of a bummer. But okay, next up, everybody probably says that this is their favorite remake of all time. The remake of The Thing from Another World.
it's my favorite
John
horror
Carpenter.
movie of all time.
Yeah, timeless, practical, that has not gone out of style, and is some of the best ever done. I still side the Blob, but that's just me. I'm in the minority, and it's fine. Can't take anything away from The Thing, though. The performances, the cast, the fact that so many iconic scenes have been either homage, spoofed, whatever. I always think of the South Park episode where they're trying to figure out which kid has lice, and they're all testing in the petri dish. And, oh, it's so good. But yeah, The Thing is awesome. You guys probably.
Oh, yeah, man. I will suck the D of that one forever.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a fan too. I don't know that.
I go that far.
I mean,
It's a good
maybe
movie.
a little kissy face. I'm not
Yeah.
sure about.
Yeah, a little
Yeah, like
D
Eskimo
sucking,
kiss.
Jim
but-
Jones, would you drink the Kool-Aid?
No, and obviously, yeah, that scene has been spoofed a number of times and even directly ripped off without the idea of a spoof behind it. So, but yeah, I absolutely love it. The creature effects are phenomenal. It's John Carpenter again at some of his best, and Kurt Russell's phenomenal. I mean, just the whole movie is something that you just don't forget once you've seen it the first time. And that actually had a remake / sequel as well. So there was
Kind of like a prequel, right?
it was a prequel
It was a
ultimately.
prequel,
yeah.
yeah.
A lot of people looked at it as a remake, but it was a straight prequel,
And
and
there was
I liked
the
it.
sequel video game too on the Xbox.
Yep.
That was
And well,
good.
there's even a Thing Outpost tabletop game too that you can get your hands on. So it's phenomenal. It's one of the best. If you haven't seen it, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And as we circle around, another remake that I contend is better than the original, The Hills Have Eyes.
Yes.
Very, very brutal, and a film that will make you uncomfortable in a few specific scenes.
Yeah, it's a
one in
horrible
particular
film.
that
It's bad.
I have trouble watching, man.
Directed by Alexandra Aja, who is doing the new alligator movie Crawl coming out soon.
And he
The
also
trailer
did
just dropped for
Piranha
that.
3D, which was great, man. I love that movie. Another good remake, another solid one.
So moving on, we got to
Previous time, well, I mean, the previous time they tried remaking Halloween with Rob Zombie doing it, and why not make, Michael Myers' mom white trash?
Well, that's why you
white
can't
trash
call Halloween
stripper.
2018 a remake, because it's not. Rob Zombie's Halloween was a remake. Halloween
Yeah.
2018 was a direct
Well,
sequel.
it was a direct sequel to the first one.
Yeah,
and
that's
it wasn't
not a
even a
remake.
remake of the.
No, so this is the only Halloween remake there is, and it's kind of garbage. I mean, I liked, here's the thing,
moments.
I'm one of the people that actually enjoyed the backstory of Michael Myers.
No, I did too. The whole shape thing.
Yeah.
I love it. The cult and all that jazz. Loved it.
No, well, no, just the background of his family as to why he was a total.
Oh,
he
wait,
wasn't
you mean
just-
the remake?
Yeah, in the
Oh,
remake.
I thought
I'm
you were
saying.
defending the original. No, never mind. My bad.
Are we on a remake panel, or are we talking about?
No, but no, because like the one thing I didn't. Here's the thing. I like this one a lot. Like, I mean, it's not better than the original, but the one thing I didn't like was the white trash aspect.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't mind it. I mean, he goes
But I like this
over
movie.
the top with it. Rob
Yeah,
Zombie
I
likes
mean,
his
it's
white
Rob
trash
Zombie,
characters, but yeah.
you know.
So, well, and he always throws his wife in there in those roles, and it makes you think, like, what do you think of your wife, man? And you always throw her in these white trash.
Probably gets
Don't
her
project
Oscars on
like
their
that. Don't
anniversary.
project. So, all right, so that's Halloween. You guys know of Halloween. Do
Yeah.
you know what the corner one is? 'Cause I can't
No,
even
the
tell.
corner one is actually Friday the 13th, the Michael Bay remake, which was basically like the greatest hits from what everybody has told me of the first few films, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't seen it, so
Which
I
means
can't-
it's
I
not
can't really
good.
contend on this, but I've had some say it's one of the best of the franchise, and the fact that it is like unapologetically brutal.
It's
in
a
the
best
kills.
of, really. It's got
Yeah.
the best kills from the first few
Is there a
in the
sleeping
movie.
bag kill in it?
I don't know about that, but there's like the arrow kill and the stab through the dock, and they're all pretty
there's
much
kills in
homages.
it.
Yeah.
There's murder.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies, honestly. I think they did such a good job with it. The first 20 minutes especially are like one. If you could watch the first 20 minutes as a Friday the 13th short film, it would be the best one there is. So.
Dang, that's a bold statement. Well, the last one Marcia at least has here is the remake of The Omen. I haven't seen it. I do enjoy the original Omen. Damien, the sequel, where you've got some Sam Elliott in there, is actually underrated in my estimation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I haven't seen the remake. Julia Stiles, was she in it, if I remember correctly? Yeah, but I haven't seen it, so I can't really say one way or the other. Honestly, if it's a couple that are not on here, just very, very quickly, I love the Dawn of the Dead remake, man. I absolutely adore what Zack Snyder did with that, along with James Gunn. I feel like that's a tremendous remake, and then I also love the remake of the Crazies. Actually, yeah,
Really?
which is another George Romero property. Yeah, Timothy fantastic man. Much love to
okay,
it. So as we circle around to the very end, I'm getting the look from our showrunner. We got to speed through. So
Looked like it a while ago, yeah,
quality recent remake. So whereas the last couple that we showed, I mean, that was, within the last 20-something years. There's some, what does Marcia have on here? Suspiria.
Suspiria, yeah, again,
remake.
we got to go fast here. So
Okay.
Suspiria
I'll
was...
just let you take it away then.
Yeah, Suspiria was a good one. Well, I mean, I can get opinions, but we can't delve deep into stories. Come on. So Suspiria just came out, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, something like that?
Longer than that.
I thought Luca did it.
Like about a year. Like
It was
half
not a year ago. No,
yeah, I mean not 5 months.
4 or
ago.
5 months ago.
Not
Is
5
that's
months,
pretty close to
no,
half
I
a
think
year,
it's
bro.
yeah, well, half a year, not like, but no, I'm like a little longer.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. I never saw the original. Again, I don't have the burden of the old ones to live up to. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a trippy third act, and I enjoyed it.
As someone who loves the original, I also recently watched this a couple weeks ago, and I love this one as well. Like, it does everything I think a remake should do. Keep the essence of the original, but, go off your own little sides, little sides way. A little alternate universe of the same tale.
Yeah, drastic deviation.
Yeah,
dance
take
aspect was
away
great.
everything you would assume, but realize you're like, oh, it's telling the same story, just differently.
Yeah,
So.
score was fantastic from Mr. Radiohead, Tom York, great. Cabin Fever was the remake that a lot of people couldn't really understand why Eli
pretty
Roth
bad.
would sanction something like that. I haven't seen it, but
It's pretty bad.
Marcia has it on here. They also did a remake of a remake for Day of the Dead. Now, there was a remake with Mino Suvari and, God, I'm forgetting the actor.
Ben Rames.
It doesn't matter. Exactly right. Hey, I haven't seen this one. You did see this Day of the Dead remake.
I did watch this, and it's so bad because the original Day of the Dead, it was interesting because they had the smart zombie bub. And this one, there's a smart zombie bub, but he's not a friendly zombie. He's smart. He figures out how to infiltrate the base and starts sneaking in and killing everyone as opposed to
Actually sounds
being the
pretty
savior.
dope.
Honestly, I enjoyed it.
never
I
saw
kind of
it, but
enjoyed
like
it.
now that
No.
you tell me that, I'm like, dude, it sounds like what they want to do with Jurassic
It
Park.
actually, I
Make them
kind of
all
enjoyed it,
smart
and
shit.
they don't shy away from the gore. It's a very gory installment, so I kind of like that one.
Check that one out.
Cool. So next up we have The Mummy, turned into an even more action-centric bit of silliness with Tommy Cruise. Not a fan of Tom Cruise anymore, haven't been for quite a while.
No.
Give me the Brendan Fraser films of these any day, although I will say Sofia Boutella, in the prosthetics and the makeup and everything, she was the unsung hero and just awesome, actress.
She
on
barely
screen
had
there.
anything to do. So.
She had very little to do. But
Mummy Impossible is what it really was. So.
Bless you.
It's a good one.
Next up, the Carrie remake. The third time Carrie has been remade. Hit Girl. I don't know. I just didn't. It was good. It was faithful enough. But this was another time where it was very much the Gus Van Sant approach, the Psycho approach, where it was too much like the original to really and to take another girl who's pretty and not pimply and overweight like Carrie actually is in the book. It's just not as believable, and it turns much more so into a She's All That, My Fair Lady kind of thing, and it's just not convincing. I guess the end, third act, with her destroying the town is decent enough. But next one is one that I know Lou is a big fan of, the Maniac remake.
Yeah. That one's great. So the director of The Hills Have Eyes, what's his name? How do you say it? Alexander Aja.
French
wrote,
director.
he wrote this one, and this is like, again, the original Maniac's one of my favorite movies, but it's so American of that time, and this takes such a kind of, I guess, European approach to it. The whole movie is shot POV style. The actors who play the same serial killer are essentially physically completely different. Like in the original, it's someone that you would, walk across the street. You wouldn't, interact with this person. But, you have Elijah Wood in this other one. He's so innocent and sweet and, like, not threatening. And then the kills are just amazing. So it's definitely one that I would, check out. Actually, watch both of them, like, side by side. It's really, it's good contrast.
So we're solo on time. You guys see on screen, those are some good remakes. Evil Dead specifically. I put Lights Out because it's a remake of a short film available on YouTube. But yeah, all of those are worth your time. But if we're going to have any time to talk about the ones we want to remake, and then I actually at the very end, if we have a couple minutes, I'd like to get any from you guys that haven't been remade if you think would be good to be remade. So
I don't think there's a panel after this, so we might be okay.
Well,
to go a
but
little bit over,
let's keep it within the time. We don't want to make people stay too late. So.
True.
I have to go to work.
So yeah.
Okay, so we got Cecil's picks for remake. Lay it on him, homie.
So yeah, one of them obviously very controversial. I think that all of these could do with a remake. I think Pumpkinhead, while the original practical effects are really cool, I think that where we are now, as far as what they can do with practical effects, I think it would be even cooler. And I just would like to see it done again because Pumpkinhead is such a great classic that I don't think enough people know about. Demons is one that I really appreciate. That one is close to my heart because it's about a bunch of people that go to a special late night screening at a theater, and basically what happens is as they watch a movie, anyone that's watching the movie starts to turn into a demon and they start killing everyone else in the theater. So that was a really fun one. I think that would be cool to be remade nowadays, especially with, that's early practical, like everyone's kind of a pale demon with sharp teeth. I think the designs can change. You can make the demons look unique instead of all of them kind of looking the same and stuff like that. I think that'd be really cool. And finally, yes, I know a lot of people say that it's unholy practically to say that remaking Jaws would be a good idea, but I think it's never going to take anything away from the Spielberg one, but after having seen The Shallows, I want to see a Jaws movie with a good CG shark that is convincing, that could actually be scary. The shark in the original is just, it's such a mechanical thing at this point, and knowing the stories, it doesn't even look like a great white shark at times. So it's, again, I love it. It's the reason that I don't go into water that I can't see to the bottom of, for the most part.
Same, dude. It scarred me too.
But nonetheless, I still think, again, after I loved The Shallows, and seeing what they did with that, I think that I think a new Jaws movie could really, really kick ass. I mean, look at how many people went to see The Meg, and that was garbage. So and I love those books. I've been saying they should make a Meg movie since the first book came out in 1996, but they screwed it up so bad. So I would just like to see Jaws done again with updated technology. So
Cool. All right, so briefly to cruise through my picks real quick. So Little Monsters, yes, not necessarily a horror film, but a film that I feel like could be remade with a little bit more scarificness to it. And so, I mean, basically think of it as like the Nightbreed for kids, if you're familiar with that. And I think this could really succeed, especially if they decided to take the practical route and not. I mean,
now I want that movie
I think you would
remade.
have to take the practical route with this. You're not going to have like CGI like creatures for Kevin Arnold to be hanging out with and stuff. And who knows, maybe they could even do like kind of a soft Rebequel kind of thing where he's all grown up and it's kind of like what they did with the Once Upon a Deadpool or something. I don't know. But I think this could be very cool, and it was a topic that was actually brought up at the panel of unpopular horror opinions that Monty Yazzie from the International Horror Sci-Fi Film Festival put on with some guests like Rebecca McKendry from Blumhouse, and one of the opinions that was thrown out was, we need more children's horror films. And I honestly concur. We need more Ernest Scared Stupid that Cecil is a big fan of.
My Soul to Keep.
Yeah,
coming out very soon.
I'm on that platform. I'll vote for that.
Yeah, I mean, let's start kids young and not necessarily throw them full blown into the R-rated insanity. Like I have so many friends. They're like, yeah, I showed my 5-year-old, Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's great. Yeah, but I mean, Little Monsters, man, that's one that it's near and dear to my heart, man, and I think that it could be done very well. They Live is a second one that I get a lot of derision from people when I say that I think this needs to be remade, but I think it needs to be remade more so than ever before right now because it has so much more social just context and relevance than even now, because compared to the 80s when this initially came out, we are bombarded with advertisements and with just technological programming more so than anybody is aware of. I mean, it is just nonstop, just being bombarded. And I like the black humor of the film. I like the fact that it just really just pulled no punches. And I mean, hell, bring on another wrestler. Bring in like Batista or something, in the Rowdy Piper role. I'd be fine with that. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is one that John Carpenter would probably give his blessing to as well. Hell, maybe even bring him in to help out with the score like they did for Halloween 2018. I feel like this is a movie that has a lot more of a social impact with this message now in this day and age than it even did back in the 80s. And to wrap up my last pick, because this is one that a lot of people, especially on this panel, I was like, Deadly Friend, Wes Craven. Has anyone seen Wes Craven's Deadly Friend? There you go. I feel like this is one
person.
Yeah.
I never even heard of it until he told me. I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a Wes Craven movie about this guy who falls in love with Christy Swanson, the girl next door, in his boy, I think it was her first role on screen, but essentially she has an abusive father who ends up beating her to death. And the kid who has the crush, next door, he has like his own pet robot, like we're talking batteries not included style. And so he basically takes that technological know-how and he resurrects her almost Frankenstein style, and yet she has some screws loose and she goes around killing people. Most notably, there's a really cheesy scene with a basketball, and that was really the studio execs interfering with Wes Craven and saying, we need more gore in this movie. Well, if we need more gore, throw a basketball and have it burst somebody's head. Yeah, there's so much of it. It's funny, right? Yeah, there's so much of a cheese factor to this film, but I feel like just the heart of it is a love story between two kids, and Christy Swanson, especially in those couple scenes where you see the shades of who she was before. It's really sad, because there is still some of the person that was existing before she died left in there, and the ending scared me big time as a kid because, spoiler, she dies again and he makes another go at it and it doesn't end up so well. So those are my 3 picks. So Lou, toss it to you, man.
All right, so anyone see Tourist Trap? Anyone familiar with it? Probably not. Okay, so this came out like right after the Halloween bang, slasher films and all that. So it's basically, but it's more keen with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's basically a bunch of kids take a side road, find a house. The guy who runs it, it's like a sideshow thing. He has all these mannequins. It's very bizarre. He has a twin brother no one sees who has telekinesis. Anyway, I want it to be remade because when I was thinking about this, this panel, I was like, what can you do with something like this? And I don't know. I guess my thing was just make it the tourist trap is a literal trap. Like everyone who rides this road, that road was specifically designed to take people off their, where they were going. So that's how I would remake it.
I like that, actually. That's a good idea.
And Also, so Reanimator, this one was a little bit easier. Just adapt the H.P. Lovecraft story more so. Don't remake Stuart Gordon's one. Maybe throw a little British humor in it, you know? Very funny, but really dark and dramatic. Very tongue-in-cheek, but period piece, 1920s.
Give it to the What We Do in the Shadows guys.
Yeah, something like that. Or you ever see, what's it called, Burke and Hare? With Simon Pegg and... what's the dude's name?
Nick Frost? The other guy?
No. Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis.
Oh, okay.
About gravediggers. It's
Oh.
very funny. Yeah, it's really
I
dark.
did see that. That's
Okay.
a funny
I
one,
have
yeah.
seen that.
Andy
Yeah.
Serkis outside of makeup for the first time.
Exactly.
Or one of the only times.
So do something like that, you know, make it, you know, period piece, dark humor, but, you know, when horror hits.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Speaking of dark.
Near Dark, man. I picked this one because I just like that this is like kind of the first vampire film that really, it took you a while to realize, oh shit, they're vampires. You know, you're like, oh.
Like those guys, they like their tint on their cars.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. But then, you know, with the original, just make it more, with the new one, how I would remake it, just make it more about a father and son. You know, a kid growing up in a small town he can't stand, meets an edgy, hot girl, turns out to be a vampire. She bites him, takes him on the road. He realizes it's not the life for him. Tries to get away, but you got the cops chasing them because it's a big murder spree. What is that?
What are we hearing?
John McClane? But, yeah, no, like, you know, the original is directed and written by Catherine Bigelow. She did Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30. So she's like a big name. And
She pillaged her then husband's talent from Aliens, right? Because there's so many people from Aliens in that movie.
yeah. And not only that, but like it was the first time you ever watched a vampire movie that wasn't like your cliche, gothic, aristocratic, romantic, you know, fangs, teeth, pale, whoa. And, you know, it's just like trailer trash running around the country, fucking killing spree.
This is a Western, man. That's
Yeah,
what I love
neo.
so much
Yeah, it was
about
like what's it called? Neo-Western of sorts. So, yeah, I think that'd be dope, and that's why I picked it.
All right.
There you
so, does anyone else have any ideas for a movie that you'd like to see remade that maybe hasn't been done yet? Yes, back in the back.
High Tension, French film I saw years ago, probably the best suspense or thriller film I've seen, just because the main character is intelligent and not stupid.
I would like to see that redone, but have them not have to lie to the audience to pull their twist off at the end.
With an ending that makes sense.
I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie. But the end, the twist they try and pull means they lied to the audience the entire movie, and I didn't like that. But I totally agree. I think that's a fantastic. I enjoyed the hell out of it the first time I saw it. I mean, it was proto Negan, that chick, because she had the bat with the barbed wire. You know, before, or it was a fence post, right, with barbed wire before Negan made it popular. So that's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Ending with that Muse song "Newborn." Oh, anyway.
We'll go here and then here. Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to see the Puppet Master series.
They just
Didn't they do that?
Yeah.
They
Have you seen
remade
Littlest
it.
Reich yet?
No.
Yeah, they the non-Full Moon company acquired the rights. It's not a Full Moon version of Puppet Master, but it's called Puppet Master Littlest Reich. It's got Thomas Lennon, who was in he was in The State. He was in Reno 911 as the short-shorted cop, and he's written a bunch of movies, including Night at the Museum. So. Yeah, that one's really good, and it's super gory, and the puppet designs are a little bit different, so that might be exactly what you're looking for. But if that hadn't come out, I would totally agree with you, because the others are real dated.
2 is great.
Yeah. Go ahead, sir. Oh, good one. Good one. The Gate is a classic one. Why do you think it needs to be remade?
Talk about kids' horror.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe maybe could take place inside underground.
Okay, like, yeah, okay.
Like in a, okay, yeah, I could see that. Okay. Yeah, The Gate's a good one.
Actually, that's
Yes,
not a
ma'am,
bad
go
idea.
ahead.
I'm thinking about it. I like that.
Movie called Watcher in the Woods.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the Disney movie.
That was one of the
right?
earliest
From
ones
back in
when
the
I watched
day.
as a kid. It was
Yeah.
creepy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there a moment where the girl puts her hand on the glass and the glass breaks and it cuts her hand? Yeah, that's stuck with me ever since. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. But that, see, I feel like that could be one, like what Fuego was talking about, maybe gear that towards the younger audience a little bit. And
Or give it like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina treatment.
there you go.
Dark with things, I think you could do that.
Yeah, I think, you know what's funny? That we did a trailer reaction for a movie that gave me massive vibes of that movie. It was called The Witch in the Window. That just came out on VOD like a couple months ago, but when we did the trailer, I was like, this feels a lot like that old movie that I was struggling to remember at the time. But yeah, that's a good one.
I want that approach given to Return to Oz, because between the Wheelers and Mombi and all those heads and stuff, man, bring it on, bring it on.
Any others before we close up shop? One more, go ahead.
House.
House?
Oh,
Ooh, that would be a good
yeah.
one too. Yeah, House was a
down with
quality
that
one.
one.
Ding Dong, You're
Actually,
Dead. Yeah.
I watched that a couple days ago since I have Shudder.
I've never
And,
seen, there's like
and
4 of
that's
them, right?
George.
I have
There's
not
I think
seen
there's
them
like
all.
3.
No, there's
3.
4. There's
Yeah,
4.
yeah.
I remember
know
a
there
Roman
was
numeral
the
4.
second
on the
story,
one, yeah.
which was really...
The second one was dope.
George went in that first one, though. That's the guy, right? Norm from
Yeah.
Cheers. He's
Yeah,
great.
Norm.
Man. He's great.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. We are at youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. We've got some flyers up here if you're interested. But thank you very much. Until next time, remember, stay scared.